So I have a story I want to start today's video with. There was a man who lived next door to my mom and dad in the last few years of their lives. Both my parents and the man, they didn't live much longer. This was they were probably in their 80s already at this time. And the man had piles and piles and piles of carousels of slides. Remember the carousels that we used to use to project slides, photographs on slides? Well, anyway, he was inviting me over there to help him with something, but I saw all these carousels. I said, wow, you must take a lot of pictures. So he told me this story. He used to live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he wanted to go hunting with a bow and arrow in the mountains near there. I don't know the area, so I'm just hopefully repeating the story correctly. But the point of the story, you'll get the point, even if I get some of the details wrong. So he wanted to go hunting, and every year he would go out there hunting with his bow and arrow, and he wanted to kill a deer. And his wife didn't really like the idea of him killing deer, but he told her, I just want to get one. As soon as I get one, I'll stop. So he did this for several years without getting a deer. Then he finally got a deer. He shot a deer with a bow and arrow. I presume he brought it home. I don't know. But what happened in the course of doing this, of going into the mountains, of walking through the woods, of waking up in a tent, making coffee under the moonlight or whatever, however you want to visualize this. But he fell in love with the process. So he exchanged his bow and arrow for a camera. And that is why he had so many slides at that point in his life. All those pictures he took all those years were right there in those boxes. I myself have never wanted to go hunting, except by taking pictures. I don't go hunting. I've gone camping, but my camping is kind of like KOA, or state parks. I'm not a what you call primitive camper. I'm really not a camper anymore at all, but I have gone camping in the last couple of years in a tent. But anyway, what that has to do with this is the animals. So today we're going to paint this giraffe. I just thought it would be fun. I wanted to kind of experiment with just watercolor, just splashing watercolor in a way that it creates a picture, and I chose giraffe as my subject. And it's kind of a cute giraffe, don't you think? And it's watercolor with a little hint of white gouache, just to kind of accentuate some of the areas that I didn't quite get right. But anyway, let me show you how I did that in this video right now. Before we go, thank you for watching. I'll probably put some music behind this one. And thank you for subscribing, and thank you for the comments. I love reading your comments and having little conversations with you. And don't forget, I have a Facebook page where you can share your work if you want. I'd like to see what you do, or send me a link to your videos. I would love to see them. And I guess that's all. All right, let's get on with the video. Oh, plus there's a poem today by Lucie Brock-Broido, who I don't know at all. She passed away in 2018, but it's a poem called Giraffe. So I put that into this video also. Here we go. Good morning. Today we're going to try to paint a giraffe. Now you already know, because you saw the intro video, how this worked out. But I don't know. And also, I'm going to try to do it on dry paper instead of white paper. So a couple different things. And another different thing is I'm doing it today in portrait orientation rather than landscape orientation, which is normally what I do. So let's just begin with the eyes. I think the eyes should be, I have to make the brush wet, but I'm not going to make the paper wet except for where the brush goes. So let's just start with this little thing there. Little thing there. How about that for an eye? And then over here, because giraffes have beautiful, beautiful long eyelashes. There. I'm really taking some risks here. So his nose goes down, and then you have here, you have this nostril. You have this nostril. Okay. And above his eye you have some line like that. And you have his curious mouth right here. So I'm sketching him with water paint, with watercolor. Sketching him. Or her. Could be a her. Might be. Might be a her. So his mouth comes around. Here we go. Up here. And down here. Maybe his nostrils are bigger. Yeah, I usually sketch with a pencil, but I'm sketching with a brush today. Let's see how it works out. You got the big area here. What about this here? Got a big area there. And the curious horns at the top. And this is actually his neck here. So we'll put some brown. They say the spots on a giraffe's neck are unique to each one of them. Might have to add some darkness to that. Let's make his eyes a little bit bigger. His lashes a little bit longer. This piece of his neck stretches out. Let's find one of the browns that works nicely. Let's see if this works nicely. I feel like the nostrils might need to be a little bit bigger. And maybe a little bit farther apart. What I want to do is get some of that dark green in the background to make it look like he's in the woods, in the jungle, in the place where he lives, where you might find a giraffe. Now the green is starting to show. Because I think he's got a lot of white on him, so we want to make the white look like white. I need to get more paints. I'm starting to run out of some of the colors I use all the time. These greens in here and these yellows. There's some of this yellow over here. Yeah, I just wanted to try using the dry paper just to see how it works out. I wanted to try a giraffe. Now back here we can start to let the watercolor do its thing, just so that it blends in a little bit better. Let's get it past the fold on the card. There we go. Let's add some reds to it for the bottom. Then after a while, I want to use the wet brush to kind of soften up some of those hard edges and to fix some of the mistakes. And we'll see how this works out. We'll see. So the idea here is just to kind of try to blend the reds and the greens, because the reds would probably be just a little bit of a reflection of what's going on behind them in the ground. he's lighter than the background up here. He's darker than the background down here. So we can add a little bit more darkness up here. Maybe there's some trees that have a lot of hidden areas to them. There we go. The giraffe is coming to life. Let's get some of this red and brown up here too. Try to get this all over his face. There we go. Keep it very light. I'll use water to keep it light. So there was a poem that I found online about a giraffe, and I will read it to you in a second, in a minute, in a little bit. Right now I just want to get some of these colors in here and let them dry, and while they're drying I'll do that. poem was written by a contemporary poet, a lady who didn't die that long ago. Her name is Lucie Brock-Broido. She died in 2018. She was born in 1956. It's a rather long poem. And it's not the rhymey kind of a poem, at least not the way I read it. I'll read it to you in a second. Let's just get some of these colors on here, keep some of the white. Just keep some of the white on here. I always think the area in the front of an animal, on the top of their snout, between their nostrils and their eyes, I always think that area is very cute. Maybe it's because that's the place on a dog. Like when you're petting a dog, you like to pet him right there. What do you think? So here's some of the poem. I'll read some of it while letting this dry. And then I want to add a little bit more brown, maybe a little bit more reddish to this area that I was just referring to. So in the poem, she writes, "In another life, he was Caesar's pet. Perhaps a gift from Cleopatra when she returned to Rome. Her hair salty and sapphired from bathing, the winged coal around her eyes smudged from heat. In another life, he was from Somalia, where he spent hours watching clouds in shapes of feral acrobats tipping along their tightropes spun of camel's hair and jute. His eyes were liquid, kind. His lashes, each as long as a hummingbird's tongue. His fetlocks puffed from galloping. His tail curled upward from the joy of feeling fleet across the tinted grasslands and the gold savannas there. Do you find me colorful as well? Once, in another life in the Serengeti, he stretched his neck to feed on the acacia twigs, mimosa, wild apricot. He was gentle, and his heart was as long as a human's arm. At night, the others of his species hummed to each other across the woodlands there. No one knows how exactly to this day, but you can hear their fluted sounds. Pliny the Elder wrote that in the circus of the hunting theaters of ancient Greece, he would be safe. He was considered among the curiosities. The house of the Medici found him novel, and he pleased them mightily. Do you find my story pleasing too? Even on the ship to France, the sailors cut an oblong hole through the deck above the cargo hold to allow his head to poke safely through. When he arrived, they dressed him in royal livery to walk the 700 leggy kilometers from Marseille to Paris to be presented to the queen, who fed him rose petals from her hand. In Thebes, in the tomb of the Valley of the Kings, he was depicted in a hieroglyph, his forelegs gently tethered by two slaves, with a green monkey clinging to his neck like a child, just along for the ride. Do you think I have imagined this? In a woodblock, once in an early Netherlandish world, he is shown with a crocodile, a unicorn, and a wobbly man with a tail and prehensile feet. Once in Khartoum, he bent his neck low enough to take milk from a pewter bowl held by a Sudanese farmer's son. Centuries later, in Piccadilly Circus, he was excluded from the carousel. Everyone favored him, but no one could climb that high. If you come back to the other world to this. The sky in Denmark, in its reticulated weathers, is inky on most days in February now. In the Copenhagen Zoo, they only name the animals who grow old there, and in this life they called him Marius, but he was just a 2-year-old. In that moment he was looking at a gray, cobbled steeple in the middle distance of a dome, or thinking of a time when his life was circled by a mane of warmth in a bright Numidian sun. His belly was full, and his eyes closed slightly, his lashes casting long, pink shadows on his face. Do you think I made this up? The attending veterinarian, Mads Bertelsen, shot him only once. He needed badly to be culled. His genetic type and character replicated quite tidily. Enough already there, said Bengst Holst, director of the zoo. On that same day, after mid-noon tea and biscuits at their schools, the Danish children were ushered to the habitat in the gardens so they could learn firsthand about anatomy. The keepers cut him open to reveal his neck, his tongue, his heart, which weighed just shy of 20 pounds. The children, wound in down, bound in bright wool scarves, which covered their open mouths with horizontal stripes, were mittened, wide-eyed, curious. Do you find me curious as well? When the Nordic dark settled in so early, the children, blanketed in white, began to fuss at sleep and cry. It would not snow that night. What is it in me makes me tell you of these sights? That's the whole poem. And it's written again by Lucie Brock-Broido, Broido, who lived from 1956 to 2018. Well, thank you for that poem, Lucie. I hope you don't mind that I'm sharing it on this video. Alright, well that was interesting, wasn't it? Kind of sad at the end. So I'm using the water now to lift some of these colors, to make them more watercolory. To make them looser. Okay, let's see. Let's add a little bit more of this red, I think. A little bit more to the middle of his head. Her head. Use the water to thin it out. I do like the idea of the lashes on this picture. background darker. Keeping it green. I think I can make this, lift some of this paint here, make that whiter, make that lighter in color. Kind of bring it around. Try to keep it loose. Just let the watercolor do its thing. Looks like it might be a baby. Looks like a young one. I don't know how long it takes for a giraffe to go from birth till adulthood. Takes a dog only 1 year. Isn't that amazing? Of course, a dog acts like a puppy all of its life. Well, almost all of its life, until it gets older. There, you can add some of this red here. Trying to keep it loose. Keep it loose, but at the same time, make the picture an enjoyable composition. I like that, keeping that little bit of white right there. Let me pick up some of that paint, make it a little bit whiter right here. Pick up some of that in the background. It's almost like sculpting a bit. It's almost like we're sculpting a giraffe. Take some of this. Put over here. a little darker down here. There's a little bit more darkness up here. Here we go. I think we have our giraffe done. I don't know how you could have a giraffe as a pet. Maybe lighten it up a little bit on the edge here. Let me lift some of this. Just a little bit more light on that side. Okay. Well, it is, as they say, what it is. I do think I'm going to try something real little bit. I'm going to try adding a little bit of white from the gouache. Got a little piece of dry gouache over here that I can reactivate with water. I've done that a lot. I just want to take a little bit of it and maybe put a little bit more of a reflection in the giraffe's eye. Let's see. Make sure it's very, very small. Oh, I like that. Just a little bit, a little hint of it. Maybe a little bit of white on the bottom. Maybe a little bit. Maybe accentuate the light on the side too. Maybe some of this area could be lighter. It didn't quite pick up well. Yeah, sometimes using white gouache with watercolor really helps add a little bit to it. Almost looks like he's smiling, doesn't it? Little tiny areas. I'm getting carried away, aren't I? I don't know. Just keep doing it till I like it. Or two, I think it's the way I want it. I don't know. I never know. I'm always not sure. It's interesting how in that poem, how the poet Lucie Brock-Broido was kind of asking us, the reader, if she was this way or that way, asking us questions almost. I wonder if she read that poem to children. I wonder if she ever sat like in a classroom and read it to them. Well, there's our giraffe, I think. I think we've got the giraffe. We went looking for a giraffe and we found one. There used to be a giraffe. There used to be a couple of giraffes around here. I don't mean in the wild. No, I mean, we had a park here. We have a park here called Silver Springs. But back in its day, when it was like a tourist attraction, it had animals. It had bears and other animals. But it also had a couple of giraffes. And the giraffes had names, of course. And they were sort of famous in the community. Everybody knew the giraffes. I used to go over there and look at them, and I'll be honest with you, they didn't smell really good. They did not smell good, but they were so friendly. They just look like sweet animals. It's interesting how God made animals. Well, what do you think? What do you think of our giraffe? And from an art point of view, I mean, we made some mistakes along the way and did our best to try to correct them. I'm still fixing mistakes right here. Although that might not be a mistake. It might just be the way this little guy looks. Maybe I'll soften the edges here a little bit. Add some water just to soften the edges a little bit right there. Around the eye. Pick some of that paint up. I like the way she described the eyelashes on the giraffe. Let's accentuate those eyelashes a little bit. There we go. That kind of adds a little bit of character to it, doesn't it? All right. I think I'm going to call our giraffe done. So... You know what I think I do want to do, though? I think I want to lift some of the background just a little bit. Make it a little bit lighter in some places. I want to make some light coming through. Just like that. Just pick it up. And let's just make the back a little bit more interesting. Okay, I'm not quite done yet. I'm done with the giraffe. I'm just not done with the painting. The back of the card. Take the soft, oops, wrong brush. Take the soft brush. I'll just go ahead and add some color to the background. I mean to the back of the card. Just spread it around a little bit more than it was. Just so the back of the card is more interesting. Here we go. It's an odd combination, unless you're talking about Christmas colors, right? Red and green. But wasn't my intent was not to emulate Christmas. It was just to make it interesting. There we go. We'll let that dry on the back, and then it'll look interesting. That's the whole idea. Like I've done before, the back of the card sort of becomes an abstract. Well, it does become an abstract. An abstract extension of a impressionistic painting. How about that? I just made something up. An abstract extension of an impressionistic painting. All right, there we go. It's too wet to fold. I'm going to fold it, and then I'll show you what it looks like folded in the still. But there's our guy, our girl. I think it's a girl. There's our lady giraffe. And thank you to Lucie Brock-Broido for that poem. All right, talk to you later. Bye.